Welcome back to the Final Fantasy XII playthrough with me, Super Cold Chaos. And in today's part we have a history lesson tied with more exposition. Yay! Although this cutscene does kind of explain some things like why Archadia decided to invade Dalmasca. Essentially what it says is that Archadia is trying to invade this country called Rosaria, which is pretty much France. And Dalmasca is pretty much Poland, whereas Archadia is World War II Nazi Germany. Kinda creepy in a way when you think that this game was made by Japan, one of the other members of the Axis powers. Once again, we go through a little bit more stuff saying, oh, these warriors fought valiantly, they gave their lives for defending their country, blah blah blah.
Or, as one might rather put it, terms of Dalmasca's surrender.
Man, Archadia can be such a troll. Yeah, we'll sign a peace treaty, which is pretty much just your guys' surrender, lol.
It was, thus, only with reluctance that he set out.
And of course, obviously, after the treaty gets signed, they're just going to kill the king. Because, once again, Archadia's a troll.
The king had scarce departed his royal city of Rabanasta, when the remnants of the order...
Oh, we'll probably never go to Rabanasta. Oh, definitely not.
For a terrible revelation awaited them.
And this is pretty much what we're going to be doing. We're going to try and save the king from being killed. And the scene pretty much just said what's going to happen at the end. Marquise. Probably not going to see that guy. Nope, never. Nope. Loading!
Can you hear me?
God?
It's as I feared. They're slowing us down. Do not say that. Not all
Yes, this guy who clearly has almost no consciousness will not slow us down in the slightest.
Your name?
Rex, sir.
Spelled with an EK instead of an EX because poor literacy is cool.
But you are still whole. Well, can you stand?
I'm a video game character, so I pretty much have to stand. That would actually be pretty boring, a video game where you do nothing but sit.
Think you can fight?
I'm fine, sir.
How old are you, Rex?
17.
The standard issue for any anime protagonist.
Young. Family?
My brother is all I have left, sir.
Again, anime
2 years
protagonist.
younger than I, living in Rabanasta.
Yeah, this is pretty much just going to be our
So young.
pseudo main character at the moment, is Rex.
You shouldn't be forced to wield a sword.
Don't worry, we're not going to have him for long, unfortunately. He's got the spunk to be an anime protagonist. Not so much the hair.
We must reach the king before they act, or all our efforts will be in vain. I'm aware of the situation. We found them over there!
And here we get to see Thor in action, finally, even though he's not using a sword, so he's probably going to suck.
Godspeed.
This is Final Fantasy, there is no god. Okay, I take that back. Thor can kick ass with a sword. Omae wa mu shindeu. And then they all blow up and this gets completely badass.
Steady, Rex. Keep your wits about you.
Oh, don't worry, I'm just going to go and kick copious amounts of ass. Loading! I'm not going to do that every time there's just black screen. And here we get to the best part of any video game, the tutorial about everything. I just wish there was a game that says, hey, if you know how to do all this stuff from playing other video games, you should be able to know this stuff by now. Being able to walk, being able to control the camera, being able to talk to other people, being able to examine stuff and blah blah blah. Can we just skip to the combat? No. So yeah, really the only three characters you should know by now are Rex, Bosch, and Vossler. The guy who was all like, oh, this guy is going to slow us down, let's just leave his corpse here. Another loading screen. Well, it is a PS2 game. Pretty old PS2 game at that. Oh, finally, something to talk about. Here we're actually going to get into the elements of combat, and this game is a lot different from other Final Fantasy games, where instead of taking turns hitting each other, all combat is done in real time. You hit the X button to open up the menu where you can choose your magics, you can choose your items, or you can choose to attack. If you get out of your opponent's range, they won't be able to hit you with some attacks, and if you get into... You can do the same thing, like some magic you can be at a further range, and some magic you have to be in close quarters. Items are used almost instantly, but everything else, you pretty much need to charge up. If you cast the haste spell on yourself naturally, as you would expect, your meter will fill up. I seem to be getting a weird sense of deja vu back from my Hellfire Combs audition video. And here we fight a giant floating bug zapper, because why the fuck not? Actually, this is kind of retarded when you think about it, considering in the previous cutscene these things were shooting down other giant floating bug zappers. Oh well. If you've seen my audition video, you'll already know my strategy to beat this thing. Just stand in the back, let your teammates hack at it with their swords, and just cast thunder at it like your Emperor Palpatine. Oh, I got another sense of deja vu. Weird. Oh well, this fight shouldn't take long, especially since you don't have to actually kill the thing, you just have to cut it down to about 1/4 of its health. Eventually, as you would expect, you'll run out of MP, but fortunately this game gives you the ability to recharge your MP as you walk around, and an ability you can get where you'll just instantly charge your MP. Or you'll just lose it all at once, but we'll get to some of the abilities as they come along. And see right there, one attack, and that thing managed to cut your HP down in half. I wasn't kidding when I said this thing can rip you apart like a prison bitch. Again with the sense of deja vu. So, Captain Bosch, who kind of looks like Thor in the upcoming movie, you know? That's why I've been making all the Thor jokes. Will kill the thing with his green fireball of darkness that he probably learned from Luigi. Actually, I should probably bring this up right now. This game doesn't really have limit breaks. Instead, it has quickenings, and that was one of them. Probably resist the urge to make a Scotty joke from Star Trek. Actually, kind of funny considering all the Star Wars jokes I've had to make. And that's your first boss. What were you expecting more? Pfft, this is Final Fantasy XII. Oh, and after a boss, we get 3 regular soldiers. Awesome. Yeah, combat can be pretty slow at first. As you get more and more spells and abilities, and as enemies start casting status alignment spells on you, combat gets a little bit more interesting. But I have to admit, it is really cool for Square to actually get creative and decide to stop using the whole turn-based random encounter thing. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think Final Fantasy XIII goes through the same combat system as this. Even more loading screens. Although I don't think it's as bad as some early PlayStation 3 games, cough cough, Sonic 06, cough cough. But it still has its moments.
What if Captain Ozilus has fallen?
Don't talk such nonsense.
Oh, come on, he's going to be the obvious traitor for our group. He can't die here.
Men like him don't die in places like this.
Yes, men like him don't die in places like this. Instead, they die at the hands of their best friends.
He'll agree to an unconditional surrender. They wouldn't
And
dare
Bosch
touch him
pretty
until
much
the
just
wax
explained what we
flames
already know, that once the treaty's been signed, the Empire is going to kill the king, and we're pretty much just going to say, don't do it. And here we're introduced to fleeing in the game. Like I said, since there are no random encounters, the only way for you to flee is pretty much just to hold one of the shoulder buttons and just run away. Not going to make a Monty Python joke, so don't ask. And here we are introduced to the last thing for this part, the save crystals. There are multiple crystals throughout the game that have different effects. This is going to be the one you see the most. This one heals your entire party, and of course you can save. I'm going to save right now, and that'll be the end of part 2. Come see me in part 3 where we end our tutorial part. See you later.